We're good.
Okay, I will call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone to our Williamsport City Council meeting. It's Thursday, June 6th. We're in Trade Transit third floor. Please rise for the invocation by Councilman Byer, followed by the flag salute.
Before we get started, I just want to take a moment to have a moment of silence for the commemoration of D-Day that was 8 years ago. Thank you. Lord, we pray for your wisdom. May we listen deeply with your daily invitation to share our talents with creativity. Strengthen and guide us so that we can be productive, effective, and decisive. May we generously serve our community as courageous leaders and compassionate neighbors. May we open our minds to discover new opportunities to boldly strive for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, approval of City Council meeting minutes from May 23rd, 2024. Is there a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments, questions, items to change on the meeting minutes? Here you see none. Mrs. Frank on the motion for item 3, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Item 4, limited courtesy. We'll look at 2 requests tonight. First request is from Bruce Huffman. Open the podium up to you. For the rules, 3 minutes, and it's related to an item on the agenda. Welcome and good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Councilman Yoder, President Biter, councilors, and administration. My name is Bruce Huffman, 1000 Cherry Street in the city. This pertains to item number 7, the City Hall feasibility study. First, I'll keep it brief. I'd just like to say that I'm glad to see that this proposal is coming forward since the RFP process was announced first, I believe, back in the fall. So it's great that we're going to get some input about our magnificent City Hall at 245 West 4th Street. Secondly, I sat in on the ERC meeting yesterday with BKV, and I was glad to hear and learn of their background and their process, and look forward to seeing what ideas they can come up with related to the challenges at 245 West 4th Street, our magnificent City Hall. And lastly, as Mr. Carter mentioned, stakeholder input is very important in this process. And I do hope that the council, administration, and BKD will be able to recommend and hear from the citizens and taxpayers of Williamsport regarding what they feel would be the important uses and aspects and other important items related to City Hall at 245 West 4th Street, which is on the National Register and is monumentally impressive. So I look forward to that process, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huffman. Our second item is from Beth Sear. Did I pronounce that correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. That was the first question. Thank you. Floor is yours. 3 minutes.
Great. Thank you, council, for this opportunity to come talk this evening. I first want to thank, surprise, Helmeniak's greenhouse for the donation of flowers that were planted at City Hall today. And about a week ago, a volunteer group weeded and pruned and pulled ivy off of City Hall. And we just wanted to show it the respect that it deserves. So check it out. It really looks great. And they donated over $200 worth of begonias to the project. So it looks super. This building is really the architectural gem of Williamsport. And Scranton, which has a similar building, did not give up on their city hall architectural gem. And they found a way to preserve their heritage. So it's reassuring that BKB has experience with these historical properties that as we learned at the meeting yesterday. And I'm very excited about their expertise to find adaptations to get the building to 2024 standards. And they also seem to have a vision for the future, because we really want to think of future generations who can enjoy this gem as many have in the past. So I really thank you for taking pride in City Hall, and I hope that we treat it accordingly, and I really look forward to working with BKB. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the request we've had for limited courtesy before. We're gonna jump around just a bit on the agenda. We'll jump to item 8 first, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution to authorize installation of 4 removable safety bollards within the city's right of way.
Is there a motion and a second? Second. Motion and a second, Mr. Bernard.
Good evening, President Yoder, Vice President Fire, and members of council. What we have before you is a request from HIP Development LLC is requesting to locate safety bollards within the city's right of way. What this would be is a permit, something similar to what council previously had done for Wawa, for them to place a sign. The owner of this property is requesting a couple of these safety bollards to be placed there due to the fact of the continued people that are parking into the sidewalk, into that right of way area that's is there. And again, he's having a problem with enforcement of it. So for the safety of the people that walk along that, he is requesting to place these safety bollards. This was reviewed by Austin, and Austin White and I had to have a conversation regarding about possibly upping the enforcement of that, but due to the nature of that, we thought this would be the best route as far as the administration did to place these safety bollards to prevent people from parking along a heavily traveled area in that right of way area. We would be required to do the same thing as Wawa. They would come in and take out a permit. He would provide liability insurance to place them there. They are quick release, just like the ones that sit behind the Crooked Goose. They put those up there several years ago. What this would do is the quick release lift and move would allow for the fire department. It would also allow for RVT not to come into play with the bus transits that come through that area.
Okay, I don't believe this went to a committee, so.
No, it didn't. Normally, like I said, this is just kind of a permit process, but Austin White thought that we should run this as a resolution, just like we did with the Wawa signage in the right of way.
Yep. Any comments or questions related to item 8? By numbers, Mr. Mackey.
Gary, all right.
Good, how are you?
Good. So the pictures of this hand drawing here, these safety bollards, which side of the street are they? The picture I'm looking at is facing, I guess that would be.
It's basically behind Pine Square where the brickyard is on that right, on that region.
It's going to be on the right side of the
Yeah,
street.
it's on the eastern side of the street, not on the western side of the street. Again, that's pretty much the brick. Several years ago, when they did the trade and transit, they put those brick pavers down through there, and it was in the right of way. So that's where it's actually going to be placed, in those brick areas.
I was looking at this hand drawing was a little confusing, but I see now. Do we think that four of these is going to be enough to stop
When they're spaced out.
Okay. That's all.
Any other comments or questions on the item? Mr. Allison.
Any comment I have, I appreciate the resolution that it refers back to code. If there's any kind of problem, code sees an issue, it can be it's watching the right away, reading any kind of problem. We have the authority to mitigate that.
And that was the whole purpose of having permitting. Again, it was sat and discussed with Chief Ungst. We spoke with RVT on the issue and administration. We also spoke with Bill Scott, the city engineer, and all of us felt that this would be the safest route to do something as far as to protect both the owner of the property as well as citizens walking down through that area, so that they're not stepping out into a car or into the buses that go through that area.
I mean, I agree with this solution here, but I am curious, and again, there's no representatives from the police department here. Why can't we just enforce the no parking that's there now?
This was something that Austin White and I spoke of, and we'd have to refer to the police department.
We have a parking authority during the day, right? And and as far as I know, our police department is capable of writing parking tickets.
That's the initial route that we had wanted to go versus go within the right.
Sure, so I guess the question is, why is that not happening? Why are we not putting boots on people's cars? Why are we not towing? At some point, if we boot, tow, people are gonna get the point that they can't park there.
One of the things that I discussed with, the owner of the business, with regards to those ballards is it's not just parking, it's also the people as they're crossing over to go into the parking lot. I personally witnessed, I believe it was a mother and a daughter, almost get hit when a car came in and just whipped right in. And I mean, they didn't see the people, and I mean, they were almost dead. So that's another concern of the owner there.
And that red brick, that's technically the street, it's not,
It's stamped concrete. It was put in as part of the trade and transit's, the downtown landscape, streetscape.
I mean, again, I obviously, I would vote yes on this tonight, but I think this maybe highlights a larger issue. Why can't we enforce our parking signage? I know our police are, I mean, our parking, what time do they get done?
I would assume between 4 and 5. I think they may be there at 6. I don't know.
And then, yeah, so can the police start writing parking tickets? I don't know how many parking tickets they write on average a month. But they have parking tickets in their possession, I'm pretty sure. So at any rate, something to look into.
Yeah, certainly, and Mayor Slaughter, the police are not here tonight, so I mean, Gary, could you? I mean, I would agree. I mean, this doesn't hold this up, but you know, there is probably some other areas where this is an issue. I hate to really, if you could relay that message, if there's anything that council can do to maybe facilitate that, I think we'd be able to do that, but maybe it's additional enforcement from the parking authority, maybe it's the police, maybe it's some kind of a collaboration between both, but it'd be interesting, I think we'd be interested in seeing, what could we come up with there, okay, for sure. Mrs. Gass.
John, I have to agree with you. If you looked at the budget last year, what we collected in fines was very minimal compared to what we see being, not, giving tickets or anything like that. So I don't think there's enough, any boots on the ground to do anything with it. I mean, there's a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all say, I mean, I drive down my street all the time, there's people parked on the sidewalk. You know, for me, it's quality of life. It's not, I don't think we should be, buying any new police cars off the fines we make off parking tickets and that sort of thing. That's not what it's about. But there's gotta be a happy medium.
And what you were saying about High Street, it is within the city ordinance that says that you cannot permit to park between the curb and the street in those grass areas. But if you look around the city, it's commonplace.
Newbury especially, it's a huge problem. So, you know,
Market Street.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, not here to tell anybody how to do their job. I used to be a police officer myself. You're not constantly going from one thing to the next. Driving around town, you got an extra 10 minutes, you see somebody parked illegally, you write them a ticket. Or you run their license plate, find out where they live, you go knock on their door and say, hey, move your car, and they get a ticket. Now, how many times I did that a lot when I was a police officer. So, but at any rate, I'm glad that the people who own this property have the ability to do something like this, but not everybody can put safety bollards in front of their house, so.
Any other comments or questions from members? Hearing see none, Mrs. Frank will the motion for item 8.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes,
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. We'll jump down to item 14, a lot subdivision for Mark and Elizabeth Fisher. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion and a second, Mr. Narn.
Yes, what we request is a one-lot subdivision from Mark and Elizabeth Fisher located at 1025 4 Mile Drive. The current land use is a residential dwelling which services with public water and sewer. It is located within both the city of Williamsport and Loyalsock Township. The proposed plan is to subdivide to 10 acres with a one-lot subdivision. Lot number 1 will contain 1.241 acres and will maintain the dwelling, the home, as well as, again, it will have public sewer and water at this time, and it will have access off of 4 Mile Drive. The residual lot will contain 8.709 acres. It'll continue to be undeveloped in a wooded area, a right-of-way access via Winfield Drive. I do have a copy of the easement, providing the council approves this and it gets deeded. That will be signed and put into it so that they will have access, that back property will have access off of Winfield Drive, which meets the requirements of the zone. Lot number 1 will stay within the city's boundaries, while the residual lot, obviously, because it is in most of it is in Loyalsock, will fall on now under Loyalsock Township. The plan was reviewed by both Lycoming County Planning, and they made positive recommendation. City planning did review it, and they made positive recommendations. Again, we do have an easement. So what happens is, providing council approves this plan, it will also go before Loyalsock Township, I believe on the 14th. They'll review it, make sure it meets their standards. They approve it, then we'll get all the plans signed. And then at that point, it'll be deeded as a smaller parcel within the city of Williamsport. And I do have a representative here and can answer any questions.
Thank you, Gary. Are there any comments or questions from members of item 14? Mr. Meyer.
The only comment that I'm going to make is that since my time on council in the past 2.5 years, we've ceded about 100 acres to other municipalities. And I don't like seeing the size of the city shrink. Really understand the reasoning behind it. I'm sure that there are certain plans for it, and I don't fault that. It's your property and you're to do that. But I think that we, as a city and municipality, should be more proactive in the future about making sure we are doing the correct thing and not just giving away these parcels, potentially looking at adjacent parcels in the city that we can negotiate some kind of land swap for.
I think historically what happened was, and I see this from a zoning standpoint since I've been here even before that, is whenever they created municipal boundaries, back then, they didn't take into consideration, let's go across and out around the parcel. They kind of cut through that, and unfortunately, that's what happens within the city as well as throughout the state.
And that's just the nature of it, and I completely understand. I would like to see us more proactive.
Mr. Allison.
Mr. Narn, that triangle with on Devon Road, that triangle section there, that's city property.
Correct.
Yeah, correct. I think there was, I remember my history right, that was a carve out made especially for that development in that area. Or some other purpose that I'm thought it gone into, but to accommodate something. So yeah, there was changes made way back that, you know, now we look at it and say, well, why is it like that? Well, decisions were made decades ago when this wasn't nearly developed. Hard to, Mr. Byers' point, yeah. It creates problems for us.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank, on item 14, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Mr. Binder.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Gary. We'll jump up to item 11, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution MOU between the city and Original Little League.
Is there a motion and a second?
Second?
Motion second, Chief Lungs. Welcome, sir. Good evening. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. Fine.
I'm jumping around on you, sorry.
I was contacted by a member of the board for original league. That is so difficult to say. But for original league, wondering if we were able to assist them in getting them an AED. There was some incidents last year and earlier this year where young baseball players getting hit in the chest and experiencing sudden cardiac arrest. We fortunately, last spring, I believe, ordered some new AEDs for our apparatus that coincide with what the hospital uses, the SREMs, the EMS department, so that they're able to communicate back and forth. So we had 2 additional AEDs. I did speak with the gentleman, and he stated that you know, he would like to, if we were able to get one. So myself and the other administrators discussed it. We did have another one. We proposed to give this used one to Original League to use in the event of an emergency, obviously. Along with that, we will also provide a CPR and AED training to the members, their staff and their umpires, coaches, and whoever else would like to take it. So we do have an MOU. I believe it was signed by myself and by the board.
Thank you, Chief. This was discussed in public safety. Mrs. Katz kind of ran the show on Tuesday. Thanks for stepping in. Anything to add?
No, everything, this is self-explanatory. It's just, good to have these out in different areas, because now you have seconds that you can use this instead of waiting minutes. And we could discuss and take the little out of Little League, because that isn't part of the name, okay? So we don't like that. So that's the only thing that we can discuss to take it out, but really true that we can have this in the area.
Yeah, I would agree. It was my kid. I mean, I want an AD there. I'm really happy to see that we're helping with CPR. I mean, the brand. Thank you for reaching out. And Chief, your team in fire department and public safety, thanks for jumping on this. This is great.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions? Here you see none, and this is Frank on item 11.
Mr. Allison.
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Mr. Binder.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, passes 5-0. Chief, while you're there, we'll just not his help. We'll jump up to item 9.
Resolution authorizing changes to the fire civil service rules and regulations.
Is there a motion in a second?
Second?
Second, Chief Hunts. Okay.
So, last year we had come to, I believe it was 2 years ago, we had come to city council to, modify the civil service rules and regulations. We believe that we made an error. What we had moved from an SOG over to the rules and regulations, we believe we omitted something. So, we brought it to city council to discuss, or to explain that, civil service board did meet and spoke regarding this. They have a few highlighted areas in your documents. They wanted to add for under item 3, section 14.1, add an official meeting. Prior to that, we were under the understanding we could just call and say, hey, you know, can we make a provisional promotion for this person, that person, these are his qualifications, whatever. And then they would reach out to the other members of the board and let me know whether or not we could do it. So the Union Civil Service Committee asked if they could add, we could specify that it's at an official meeting. So that's one portion. And then under section 3 or chapter 3 of item 14.3, under section B, they would like to add or meet the time requirements, but do not meet the training requirements. And then also section item I, members must have begun the training prior to provisional appointment of said position. And item 2, no members can be on probation in their current position.
Thank you very much, Chief. Mrs. Scott from Public Works, anything to add to the discussion there?
I think it should explain it, explaining about.
Any comments or questions on the item? You're going to see none. Mrs. Franklin, item 9, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. We'll move to item 10.
Resolution MOU between the city and American Legion Post 1.
Is there a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Chief.
This is very similar to the originally donation of an AED along with the CPR and AED training. This will be for post 1 down the street here at 10 East 3rd Street. It will be stored in the bar area.
Mrs. Katz, anything to add? Safety?
No, that was fine. I'm very happy that it's being spread out.
Any comments or questions from other members? Here you see none, then Mrs. Franklin, item 10.
Mr. Allison.
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. We'll move to item 12.
Resolution updating emergency operating plan for the city.
Is there a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Chief Austin.
Okay. The last time that the emergency operations plan for the city of Williamsport was updated was 2017, I believe. It's supposed to be updated annually or approved by city council annually. It's been a while, so while Councilman Mackey was in school working on his capstone project, we were fortunate enough to have him on our team as a deputy emergency management coordinator. And he worked on this relentlessly, tirelessly, and did an absolutely fantastic job on it. And then also it's included with the EOP is what's called the NARP, which is the numbers and
Notification and response.
that's it. Notification and response man. Basically, it's a bunch of phone numbers. Your names are in it, those types of things, contacts. So, and that was something that myself, Councilman Mackey and, Chief Lucas worked. We just like to update that, and if you have any questions.
Excellent. Mrs. Katz, public safety?
Well, we and John had a big part in this, and we wanted John to add anything to it. Because he, that's a lot of what he did on the job.
Well done, first off. But,
I got an A.
I sure hope so. John, anything to add here?
Yeah, well, first, this black and white copy you have in here doesn't do the cover any justice. I'll say that.
I have a color version.
But, I mean, ultimately, your base plan, your emergency operations base plan, this is your public facing side of the document. This is the one that we can post on our website, that the public is more than welcome to see. NARM, no, that is a confidential document. You know, the emergency operations plan is important for a couple of different reasons. I mean, first and foremost, as Chief said, you need to have this on file with the county. And it should be, best practices said, it should be updated at least every 2 years. Ours has not been updated in a while. If you don't have an updated version of this emergency operations plan on file in the county, there's a major disaster and there is a presidential or a emergency declaration declared and there are funds released and we don't have an updated version on file, well, you're out of luck. You don't get to apply for any of that funding. So that's one of the primary reasons that this is important. It's also, this is your 30,000 foot overview of who's doing what and why they're doing it. It's not exactly how they're doing it. You don't really want people to know how they're doing certain things because you don't know what kind of disaster you're going to be dealing with. If it's a terrorism incident, for example, you don't really want potential terrorists to know how you're going to deal with certain things, right? So, yeah, it was a great project. I think we learned a lot about what Williamsport is capable of when it comes to emergency response and emergency preparedness. Those are two very different things. They sound very similar, but they're not. I mean, absent the comments I just made about parking enforcement, I have full confidence in not only the fire department, but the police department and Shrimps. I've witnessed the things that these organizations can do up close. I've helped them do some of these, like the planning of events. You know, was it 2 summers ago when the power went out at the hospital? Yeah. I mean, that was a sight to behold. And 98% of the time, those 12, 24-hour type incidents are the things that we're going to be dealing with. And, you know, a lot of the stuff within this plan, especially in regards to an emergency operations center, aren't really going to come into play. But when you see, you know, the response and the coordination that took place that night, it was astounding. And we should all feel very lucky to have people like this protecting us 24 hours a day. I would like to say that if you can, I mean, if anybody's looking at the plan currently right now, if you could kind of scroll to page 8. One of the things you do in an emergency operations plan is you identify the hazards in your community. We, as a group, identified, I believe there's 15 here, and we ranked all of them. And again, this black and white doesn't do it justice, but the very dark colored areas here on this hazard assessment tool that we used identifies flooding, severe winter and summer weather, severe heat, levee failure, high occupancy structure fire, prison riot and or escape. And I think that's it. Those are what we would consider to be our most imminent hazards that we might have to deal with. I personally, Chief, and my time is pretty limited now with my new job. I would like to see some hazard-specific annexes get developed. I think if we sat down and came up with some sort of a time frame, I would be more than happy to try and help you guys through that process. But I think that's important. Again, those annexes, that's your real, like, that's your meat and potatoes of how you're actually going to respond to certain types of catastrophe, disaster, whatever you want to call it. And again, those are not public facing documents. Those are ones that you keep to yourself. And then, I think the other thing to just note is that in section 7, which is what we call our assignment of responsibilities, this is when we got together with a lot of different stakeholders here within the city, and basically outlined everything that these organizations would do in the event of emergency or a catastrophe. I also would like to maybe see some sort of formal agreement with some of these organizations. Obviously, the things that the Williamsport departments would do, I mean, they're Williamsport, so they can't say, no, we're not going to do that. Shrems is the same thing. UPMC, Williamsport, River Valley Transit, all of these organizations, I know whether there's an MOU on file or not, are going to do these things if they have to. It's when we get into the places like the school district, the colleges, we have a good relationship with all those organizations, and I think that they would also do the things that it says they would do in here. But to have that kind of stuff a little bit more concrete on paper might be something that we want to try and also get accomplished. But none of these things that I'm saying should hold up the passing of this, because this is an important document. I'm not just saying it because I wrote it. But so yeah, essentially that's kind of where we're at. When it comes to the Emergency Operations Center, we really need to identify a space that we have access to. When I say we, I mean the city, I mean the people that we want to try and have in that Emergency Operations Center. If it ever has to get stood up in an event where something's going to be going on for a week or a month or 3 months long, that we have access to, that's got internet service, that, so I think that's still a space as a city that we need to find. And not only find, I think we need to find some people who can be in that space and act in that support role, because it can't be you. You are the emergency management coordinator for the city, but you're also the fire chief. Right? And this is not a problem that only Williamsport faces. I mean, there is not a lot of money out there for emergency management. Should we have a full-time emergency management coordinator in the city? Yeah, we probably should. For the amount of events that we see here on an annual basis, and the type of hazards and threats that we face as a community. But I mean, that's a discussion for another time.
And so previously we had, Lou Hunsinger was our emergency management coordinator for many years. And then followed up by former councilman, former firefighter Harry Marchese. When Harry went out, then they turned it over to the fire chief. And it would be a challenge for the fire chief to be in the EM or the EOC when a major incident is occurring, because generally, the department heads, the fire chief, the police chief, streets and parks are all at the incident, actively working. So,
And I mean, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be acting as the incident commander on the scene.
Correct.
We need somebody in the EOC that these people can communicate with when they say, hey, we're running short on X, or we need Y. They don't have time to find that kind of stuff. That's when the emergency management people come in. That's that support. And the idea that the county is going to come save us, that's just not the case. There's a pretty common saying in this field, and it is that all emergencies begin and end locally. I mean, we really are on our own. The county, for all of the great things that they do, and they have a great staff out there. They've got very knowledgeable people out at the emergency management department, but the county doesn't have assets. They don't have things that they can give us. If we say to the county, we need help with X, Y, and Z, the county is gonna turn around, pick up a phone and call the the PEMA Central Area Office. The county's role in this process is being the liaison between us and the state. And that's about it. And it's a bit of a sobering fact to think about, but that's just the reality of it. And that's nothing against the county. Because the county's in the same position the city. The county's in the same position every other county in Pennsylvania. There's just no money for this kind of thing. Because 98% of the time, we're operating in what we call blue sky days. So, you know. But anyway. Yes.
Chief, one thing about it, that was a paid position in the title.
Yeah, he received a stipend.
Any price it was then that.
Correct. Civil defense actually transitioned to emergency management.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not going to even venture a guess as to what the stipend is.
I don't think that's
I don't believe so, but
he loves his job.
he's very good at it.
You have any comments or questions? Mr. Allison?
Yeah, to John's point about, keeping this updated, do we have a mechanism? Because let's face it, personnel changes, administrations change, people come in and go, council people come and go. Do we have a mechanism that we require that we will update it every other year?
Yeah, that can be something that we do as an emergency management agency. That we make sure that every 2 years we come to city council with approval, to request approval of the updated EOP. You know, that's something we can definitely do. The unfortunate thing is exactly what you said, with the personnel turnover and changing. It just kept getting overlooked and overlooked and overlooked.
So, I guess, yeah, if we have some kind of, I don't know, policy or something that forces that issue, regardless of who could we put that. The other thing, John, you said it's a discussion for another time about having a person in that. I think we should have that discussion, you know, would be, you know, maybe a fee that every entity in the city pays, you know, a small one, but if there's a lot of people paying into it, we could possibly afford to have somebody in some kind of capacity that would be the point. Something to think about.
The little league justifies the expense that it would take to have a full-time person, making sure that all this stuff is up to date. And not only up to date, training on having exercises, whether they're discussion-based, tabletop, full scale. I know the hospital runs one. That's Mr. Slaughterbeck's, I believe he's retired now. Yeah, so it's been a while since there's been any type of full scale exercise to test our capabilities as a city, and as a region, really, because it's gonna be a regional. The hospital power failure was not just the city of Williamsport, that was a regional one effort. Yeah, so, but yeah, I mean, this is just one of those things that doesn't get talked about until it's too late. So,
Any other comments or questions? Good discussion, and again, John, thank you very much for your work on this, and for valuing this discussion, this is important stuff. I appreciate you leading the charge. Well done. No. Yeah, yes, please.
When you got into the 2017 document. You got the-
No.
It's basically the document that you have in your. The document, I guess that's, you know, and I'm talking about, you know, but nonetheless, it, things like that are so totally critical. I think some of the generalized ones, which they will probably not change that much year over year, but in a couple of years, we're going to think that, yeah, change out in terms of these modes, the city, you know, will connect, you know, so. Yeah.
How often does this need to be updated, remind me?
Well, need and it best practices says every 2 years at least. And I mean, I think you want to do this every year, you know, because it's not just personnel change, it's organizational. I mean, the people who are running shrooms or David UPMC gets bought out by a different hospital, you know, it's not earth shattering stuff, but it's all important information that should be looked at least every year. Right. And, you know, and things like that, the hazard identification too. I mean, we have 15 hazards identified and we picked those because we've seen a lot of those happen. Obviously not prison riots, right? We have a prison right now. We have what is the second biggest levy system in the state, right? So we clearly need to pay attention to that kind of stuff. But, you know, hazards change, new threats arise. To be able to stay on top of that kind of stuff is important. So yeah, I think every year, you know, I think 2 years is even too long. So I think this is something that needs to be looked at least once a year.
And we could actually piggyback that on with the civil service rules and regulations, which need to be by a third-class city, need to be reviewed annually. So,
Yeah, so right there you go. And whenever you do that, I think you do this too. Yeah. So, I mean, Sam, if there's anything that we need to do, to formalize that, I mean, don't be afraid, like, update it, bring it forward. Any other comments or questions? Any good discussion? All right, here you see now, Mrs. Frank, on item 12, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yeah.
Mr. Marion.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Vaya.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Move to item 13.
Resolution authorizing an agreement between the Williamsport Bureau of Fire and Matterport.
Is there a motion? Second.
So
Second. Motion and a second. You're up, sir. One more time.
and one last. So Matterport is a camera that does 360 photo photography. If you've been on Zillow or Realtor and seen some of the houses that have each room stitched together, so you can kind of do a virtual tour. Exactly what this is, same camera. We would use it for fire investigations. It's very important to document everything along with, other than the origin and cause, but have photographic documentation of this stuff to show in court in the event that it does go to court. So many fire departments are going to this Matterport. There is a subscription. Excuse me. There is a subscription that's included that is, I believe it's $600 or $660 a year. And that is for 20 units or 20 buildings, 20 incidents. So I don't think that we would hit that. That was our optimal number. that we came up with. That was myself and our fire investigation team that has done a lot of work looking at this. Almost every insurance company that comes up, you know, they have them. It's the next up and coming portion of fire investigation. We would question whether or not we could get one, and we did put it in the budget for this year.
This is Scott's public safety.
Yes, it's your comes to public safety, and as the chief is going on, it's great in investigative, fires. I do have a question that I believe this, you break answer. What is of the SDR, the road to kids for $1,400?
So that's, I believe that's the camera, the tripod, not the camera, the tripod, I believe, external lighting. There's a few things that come with that, the carrying case, you know, the heavy duty carrying.
Okay, so that's one shot deal then. So really, that would go under, on top of the $3,795.
I'm sorry, yes, yes. I just saw it too.
I know, I was wondering too. What else was in there? Stuff that in small.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's the only thing I questioned, but, to have this information for insurance purposes, not only for the person who's involved, but also the department itself, right? And that's what it's.
Any other comments or questions, Mr. Whiter?
With the $660 fee, we had $30 fee, if we go for that per unit, if you will. Is that a software then that this particular company, we send them all files, and they stitch all this together?
Yes.
Okay. And is there no way to license that software so our fire investigation team can use this? So see if we're going to save, 40, 30, 20.
So what it is we send the files to Matterport. It takes a day or two for them to stitch it all together with their proprietary software. And then they send it, they post it on like cloud. So we'll have access to it through a cloud. It's our information. We will always have access to it, even if we, you know, in 5, 10 years, whatever, we stop subscribing to it, we will still have access to it.
Give the ability to download those images though, and sort of locally if we need to.
No, because that is, I forget the suffix, like XTM or something. Some other type of, so you have to view it on the cloud.
Got it. Just I can't figure out.
No, I haven't said anything about it yet. I usually inundate them with a lot, so.
Just to follow up on that, how do we then, like, if we were to have to present an official court, or something like that, we present it digitally?
Yes.
Okay, and that's an acceptable means of presentation of private action, the jury trial. I'm sorry, I'm still figuring the jury.
I kind of thought the same thing. So.
Yeah, of course, it's multiple passions. The only other question I have is, so we're looking at basically somewhere between a $3,800 and a $2,400 fee every time you need to purchase the equipment.
Yeah.
And how often what's the lifespan?
I believe they said about every 6 to 10 years.
Okay.
So they're on version 3 right now. They've been in business for roughly 20 years. And we are going with the Pro 2 version. So it's not that the top of the line, the brand new version, it's the second version. Yeah.
And if we break it.
Right.
If it breaks, it's not our fault, not.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So we very all right, I can see you.
The last question I have for you is training. So the gentlemen with the fire department that are going to be using the camera, will they be receiving training from the company? Is Zoom calls? Are they just going to get it and say, figure it out?
Yeah, no, they definitely won't be just figuring out. There is training that's included with this. I believe it is on Zoom, so.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, here you see none, Mrs. Pennington, motion for item 13.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mueller.
Yes.
Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All right, let's jump up to item 7, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution approving BKV for professional design services for City Hall study.
Is there a motion in a second?
So,
Second. Motion in a second. All right, I'll kick us off with this one. So what you have in front of you is a resolution approving a contract with BKV to perform a feasibility study for a few different options for the future of City Hall. Take a quick moment to kind of kick us off as to how we got here, talk a little bit about the process, and then I'll turn it over to Eric to talk about the conversation in ERC yesterday, and then we can move on with the discussion. So, as I think all of us pretty vividly remember, over the past couple of years, this is a item that we've been really talking a lot about what we're going to do in this situation, following receiving an offer for sale that we tabled because we did not have the adequate data that we wanted to provide us a level of comfort to either execute or deny that opportunity. That kind of spurred us in this direction. So in this year's budget, during the end of last year, we allocated funding to do this. When we got into January, with some feedback from some members of council, City Engineer Bill Scott's input and review from Austin White, drafted a RFP to solicit an architectural firm to do a feasibility study. That RFP went out, I believe, Bill, I think I said yes last week, it went out end of March. I think we got stuff back, closed at end of April, beginning of April 26th. And we were awarding it today. The scope of that is threefold. So we're doing a updated cost analysis, life cycle cost analysis of City Hall. That includes looking at internal and external features, historical nature, uses, et cetera, of City Hall. But what's a little bit different about this that we have not done to date, and I think is what we've been looking for, is that look, the City Hall is comprehensive, including ADA, et cetera. But we have not had looked at comprehensively. But then we're also looking at two additional external options that we have not looked at thoroughly before that we need to. We are looking at procuring, updating, and moving into a other existing building in the city of Williamsport that we don't currently own. And then we're going to do the exact same thing and exploring what it would take to build a new city hall. When we closed the RFP, we received 11 total responses. The way that those responses were evaluated was not based on lowest bid. It was based on 4 factors: experience, or experience of similar scope, experience of team, references, and price. So based on some scoring that was conducted, there were 4 that stood out at the top. Those 4 were interviewed. I want to say the end of last month, roughly, between myself, Councilwoman Liz Mealy, Councilman Randy Allison, and our city engineer Bill Scott. Following that, we, and from kind of providing that feedback from that interview with other members of council, arrived here with awarding this to BKB Architects. And they are on Zoom here. I'll turn this over to them here in a minute or so to, assuming they can hear us and assuming we can hear them. We'll see how that goes here in a minute. But, you know, they really stuck out, for a number of different reasons, and I'm not gonna speak for Randy or for Liz here. Very good comprehensive experience, very good experience on their team. They cover a lot of the needs, both historic, ADA, technical expertise. They've done this before. So they're a really, really good fit, I think, for the scope of what we're doing here. So it's a little bit about kind of how we got here, process, et cetera. Craig, can you hear me?
I certainly can. Can you hear me?
We can, awesome.
Good.
I'll turn it over to you if you want to take a few minutes, just kind of walk through, as you did at ERC, your proposal, your timeline, your background, that kind of thing, and then we can turn it over to talk about conversation ERC.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you today, and appreciate that that you've selected us. BKB Group is a national multidisciplinary design firm, which means we have architects in-house, but we also have interior designers and electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, structural engineers, landscape architects, et cetera. And we do this type of work across the country, from a few different locations, including where I'm sitting right now in Pittsburgh. We have expertise in kind of all of the various facets of this project, and that's kind of part of what makes it very interesting for us. We've done dozens of city hall and county government facilities, and some of those in historic buildings, some of them new construction, some of those renovations in non-historic buildings, of course, too. We've done a decent amount of accessibility consulting, and that's a part of my background that I've had even before I was at BKB Group. Done quite a bit of that, working with the ADA and interpreting with some attorneys how to comply with that. And then we have a large interest in historic preservation, and we do a lot of projects involving historic preservation out of all of our practice sites. I've cited before an accessibility and city hall study for Lockport, Illinois, in a National Register listed school that is pretty similar to yours. We've done work for another good one, might be Aiken County, Minnesota, where we've got a county government center in a historic building, and that one's pretty cool. There's an addition to that is non-historic, and then there's the renovation of the historic part. There's countless other historic preservation aspects to it as well. So we've got experience in all of these different facets of the project, and we're excited to kind of combine them together, because that doesn't always happen for us. What we see for this project is sort of looking at this in multiple respects. We're gonna study what it takes to, in terms of just square footage, for you guys to operate in an up-to-date kind of city hall type of space with the conference rooms and council chambers and offices and et cetera, that takes for you to really operate effectively as a modern city government. We're going to take a deep dive into how we can translate that into your existing building, while also satisfying all of the accessibility challenges that we know you have, and upgrading the mechanical systems, the electrical systems, communications, plumbing, et cetera, shoring up any of the structural issues that you have. And we're gonna provide a cost estimate for how much it's gonna take to kind of put that city hall, your future city hall, back into your old city hall effectively. Now there's a couple different levels of intervention that we could do there. We can basically upgrade the entire building with the new mechanical, electrical, and do all of the work that would be necessary to just make that building perfect. Or we could do kind of just the minimum necessary to get you guys back in there, understanding that as you know, you're not going to take up the entire space with your city hall functions, and so maybe we leave some of it for the future whenever we figure out what else is going in there, or there's somewhere in between maybe, and we'll help you guys brainstorm what else could be located in that facility, what else you could use it for, whether there's citizen groups or you rent it out to another unit of government or whatever it is. We'll kind of help kind of talk about the options there and kind of guide that discussion a little bit. Then we're going to look at, as Council President Yoder said, you know, where else could you locate if you took an existing building downtown? You know, how could you effectively turn that into a city hall for the long term? And then we'll look at sort of you know, let's imagine that we're just building from scratch, and we wanted a city hall that was customized to us, and we'll find a place and we'll build it there. How much would that cost? And so with cost estimates of those kind of you know, the replacement city hall, the, you know, using the existing building but not your original city hall, and then a couple different options for kind of renovation of the old post office / city hall building, you guys will have a good amount of information in order to make that decision. And ultimately, we don't feel that it's our decision to make or necessarily even recommend a path forward, because you know, we're providing you with the cost data and some pros and cons, you know, of the various options, but there's a huge subjective factor when you're dealing with the, you know, the history of your community and what that city hall means to the citizens, and that's worth some amount of money. And it's not BKV's job to decide how much money, you know, that portion of it is worth. That's something that's up to the citizens and the council to decide. So we're going to feed you as much data as you can possibly accept, and then help support you through the decision-making process. So our original report, our proposal said that we would be done maybe towards the end of August. You know, the selection process took a little bit longer, which is common. No big deal. So we'll probably be finish up with the final report at the end of September and allow you guys to kind of make a decision and move on.
All right, thank you very much for that. Really appreciate that. Mr. White, this was reviewed in ERC. I'll turn it over to you to talk about the conversation yesterday.
It was reviewed at ERC yesterday. I do appreciate that we was able to be here in person, that was good work. There's not much more that I can add to what was already said by two of the parties. But what I will say is, just to reiterate what Councilman said already, and what I think others on council would feel, I won't speak for you, but the second piece and the third piece that they studied, the additional, a new building, and we potentially build or rehabbing a building that we're not currently in, is something that we were all looking for, so we could all make the best informed decision when it comes to where city government should be. That being said, that was what stood out with the BKV group and their ability to offer that to us within a budget we're trying to achieve. So I do thank them for that. Councilman Mackey, you were there as well. Did you want to add on this?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I did have a couple clarifications, maybe some questions, Craig, if you don't mind.
Please.
Tonight we had a citizen here that spoke before the meeting. When you talk about engaging stakeholder engagement, how do you plan on engaging the citizens of Williamsport in this process? Could you kind of walk us through what that might look like? Because that is an important piece that I think we're all concerned about.
Yeah. I share your concern about that, because I think that ultimately the citizens are going to play a big role in the decision-making process. I would say that technically we've excluded a big citizen engagement process from our fee proposal in this because we weren't sure exactly how much you wanted to do. We have gone to various lengths for different clients to do large public outreach campaigns, lots of open houses with boots on the ground there in Williamsport, and really talking to as many people as we can, summarizing the data and providing the information to you. Or it could be more of facilitating some online questionnaires and stuff like that, or opening up to a more digital based open house where maybe it's at a council meeting or something similar to this where we're not boots on the ground, but we're still getting a lot of one-on-one feedback with folks. There's a variety of ways to do that, and I think that we're game. We're ready to do that. We just need to figure out what exactly you guys want to, how far you want to take it. We've seen it be very successful to do a lot of tours of historic buildings like this, and people come in and they say to themselves, man, I can never imagine this being effective, and I prefer not to worry about it. Or, man, I can see the great bones in this facility, and I really have decided that I would like to spend a little bit of money to save it. And all those sorts of things are possible. It's just a question of where you want to go with it.
Okay. And then could you again just briefly outline the other people who you would be speaking to? I know you mentioned, would you actually be talking to people who work the city hall? You'll be talking to everybody in the administration.
Yes, our hope is to make sure that we're getting participants from kind of across the city spectrum. So we'll want some involvement from city council members, because you have a stake in the city hall, obviously, as elected leaders, but also as users of the facility. We'll want to talk to finance and HR and the mayor's office, and the police department, we believe, still has a presence in the building. We'll want to talk to them. If there's Muni Court that's still going to kind of take place there, we'll want to kind of work through that and understand how all of that will shape the space needs and the use of the facility. We'll want to touch base with all the other city departments just to kind of get their input. Certainly, from folks who are involved in the maintenance and the upkeep of municipal facilities. It's important that we involve them and learn from them. In many senses, we view you guys as the experts on the city, on this particular facility, and what you need the city hall to be in the future. It's our job to act as facilitators to kind of extract information from you, and then of course we'll be there in person, looking around and looking at the physical condition of it as well. But this involvement from a variety of stakeholders is very important. And so again, as experts, we're gonna ask you. We've got some ideas, but we're gonna ask you to kind of help assemble the appropriate team members that we can engage throughout the process. So if I've missed listing anybody, that's not because we want to exclude them. It's just based on my ignorance at this moment.
Great. Okay. And then you mentioned options in terms of city hall. Is it my understanding that if this is a building that's going to be publicly used, especially for the purposes of government, are you saying that we potentially could be, an option would be to not renovate the entire building? I was always under the understanding that if we were going to be in there, whether it was on solely the first floor or the basement or whatever, the entire building needed to be brought up to ADA standards. Because again, as I mentioned at ERC yesterday, we're not here where we are tonight because of a choice or because of any external forces, water leaks, whatever people want to say. We're here because that building is not ADA compliant, and that's putting it mildly. It's so far out of ADA compliance. It seems almost unbelievable to think that we can ever get it up to the standards that it needs to be, but it's either here or there. I'm just asking you, is it your understanding that we could potentially just occupy the first floor of this building and not address any of the other issues on the second and third floors and basement?
Yeah, I would say that you know, I don't have the familiarity with the building that you guys have, but I think that yes, that's an option. There's going to be aspects of the renovation or repairs or whatever that probably aren't optional. That you just, you know, they were going to say you really got to do this throughout the entire thing. But there will also be parts where you could choose not to execute all of it on day one. And you know, that could be you know, well, we're gonna make sure that we're running telecommunications on the first floor in the basement, but we're not, you know, we don't know what's going on upstairs. We're not going to do that right now, or we're not going to, you know, we're going to upgrade electrical feeds to the sub panels on the second floor, but we're not going to do any of the distribution wiring on the second floor right now because we don't really know. So we could take things, you know, all the way up to finished work for the entire facility, or we can kind of stop short of that and leave some of that type of work to be done in the future. And you know, I would say that a lot of the accessibility components are in that list. And part of that, frankly, is making sure that when, you know, there's a commitment to upgrade those, you know, if there's bathrooms on the third floor that aren't accessible, and we're kind of leaving that part alone. You know, once the third floor becomes occupied, you'll be obligated to upgrade those things. But if the third floor is kind of off limits and it's a shelled space essentially for right now, no, you could defer those costs.
Thank you.
Any other, I'll just, I appreciate the questions, John, and I'll just kind of leave it with this, and then I'll go forward for some more questions or conversation. So my individual hope following this at the end of September is, you know, look, we can use this to build some consensus, whatever that may be, on figure out where we're going to live for the next 25, 30 years, right? But then, in addition to making that decision, we'll have actual data to actually start that planning process. So let's say, hey, it makes sense to go build another building and offload City Hall, as we had started to do. We will actually have the data in hand to start the planning process for identifying funding, engaging an A&E firm to start to design specifications, drawings, et cetera. That's another component that we have not had, really, to my knowledge, of what I remember looking in the ad hoc pattern. Regardless of where this goes, that we need. And so, you know, I know there's been a narrative going on about, oh yeah, just another City Hall study. I understand that. But that's how this study is different. This is not just another City Hall study. This is as comprehensive as it's ever been. And it's going to position us to actually make a call and to make actionable steps towards implementing it. That's been the gap with a lot of the studies that I previously saw before I was on council. And that's no disrespect to anybody sitting here or prior administration or current members of the administration who might have been involved in them. You know, but they were looking at little slivers of it. Can't do much with that, right? So that's my hope out of this. I'm optimistic about that. I'm excited to go through this process. I'm excited to hopefully bring this to a close. I think we all are. And so I'll open up the floor for any other questions, comments, Ms. Mealy.
Yeah, you know, some of you found the handful of City Hall evaluation committee we have worked so often at the building, we've been thinking about reading it effectively and what that made it really impossible for us to do is achieve any kind of consensus that we should be supported by everyone within the administration. And without someone with consensus, without all of us operating the same set of facts, we can't really step forward. There can be perhaps someone will compromise, someone will disagreement, we will have to achieve on the same set of facts. You know, I may disagree with some people about what it's worth to stay in this work. There may be something like that, but we all are operating with the same set of facts, and we, I think, can arrive at a conclusion in everyone. And I have not seen that happen yet. And I hope that moving forward, we will get there, we will get there in a timely fashion, and then we can take stock of where we are and how we think whatever conclusion we come to have. We know that we are likely to stay in our seat, limbo state for at least a couple of years while we fall and realize whatever goal we come out of this with. But I think as someone who's felt like just huge, and I think all of us have felt huge chunks of the world in the pandemic, and trying to get everything put back in place, it will be a huge relief to me to deal with the city stuff that we have to getting from the moment, and if we really all say that we can put that. But anyway, this is an exciting project. An exciting project to me, and in particular, as somebody who participated in the review process, we had pretty much exclusively excellent presentation package we received from 11 different firms. We picked out the four we felt were strongest, and I would say that pretty much any of the firms that we interviewed had a really tough time. But I am particularly excited that BTV, which I think we got. We had, I think, for the first time in a while, some very fortunate times in terms of thinking of undertaking a project like this. I think there was a real appetite for the board, and we think that it's really good final product.
Mr. Allison.
Yeah, I'm excited about this being the most equitable, transparent, public process that we could come up with, I believe, inclusive of a lot of different segments of the city and the populace. And I think we, independently of, we all got the same information with the RFPs, and I know I went through and made my notes, and after I did that and had my rankings, I talked to Adam, and pretty much independently came up with the same one. So I felt like, well, we're on the right track, and and I think we got the right one, and I'm positive about this. We're going to do what's right for the city. I'm myself wiping the slate clean. Whatever happened in the past happened. Whatever was said, and whatever preconceptions or conceptions that I had, I'm putting them aside and start with a clean slate and way down that way.
And you're saying, same here, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
I'm glad, but it's important, but it's important, absolutely. Here, Mrs. Cass.
I think that has been a problem all these years, is we all had goals, but our goals never really had a total plan. And therefore, it was what we were wishing for would happen. And it never came to fruition from the standpoint of we were getting bits and pieces, as you said, Adam. You know, there was no full report. And to have this now, I think is going to clarify so much for everyone. And I think, you know, I, like everybody else, I'm excited about this because now we're going to get all of that, so the numbers, the facts, and how it can be done. So I'm going to thank this company, and I think they're going to, from what they're saying, they're going to do a marvelous job.
Comments or questions related to this? Mr. Mackey.
Yeah, I think no secret, I've been a verbal, opponent of this. I don't know about this process. We all have our own opinions on City Hall, but I think Councilman Mealy put it pretty succinctly. I have thought a lot about this resolution, and I was pretty sure that I was going to vote no on it, but I do think that a unified front is really the only way to go here. And I'm confident maybe is not the right word. But that's the only one I can think of. I'm confident that when we do all have the same facts, they're going to show us what we probably already know in our hearts. What we were maybe an hour or two away from doing a year ago, and that was moving on from City Hall. I'm fairly confident that this process is going to show us once and for all that we don't need to be in there to still make it a historic building. It could still be a historic building. What happens inside of it doesn't have any effect on that. But with that being said, again, I also look forward to having some hard and thirsty points. And listen, if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. I don't think I'm going to be, but we'll see. But yes, this is a process that it's apparent, it's painfully apparent to me that this process needs to happen for us to move forward. And we can't just keep spinning our wheels. We can't stay here forever. Right? We need a place to go. So I agree that this will be good to have facts, and it is important to be and it's important that the citizens of Williamsport know that we are listening to you. Whether we agree with you or not, it's not our job is to listen to you. Our job is to listen to the citizens of Williamsport and do what is best for them, whether we agree with it or not. So.
And to kind of even add on to that,
I'm not sure if you're laughing, you're surprised at what I'm saying.
I'm surprised.
That was just a really interesting way of putting it. We don't have to listen to them.
We don't have to agree with, we have to listen to them. We don't have to agree with it, right? Right.
No, and
I don't have to listen to you. That was a joke.
Except for like 2 hours.
Right.
But no, I mean, I think that is a pretty accurate summary of being in government for better or for worse. I think you're trying to make the best decision, and sometimes it is not what everybody wants. And when you're lucky it is, barely, but it was a better portion.
To that point though, I will say this, and then we can take the vote here. The people that I've talked to in my neighborhood, at work, downtown, where I eat, whatever, wherever it is, everybody's got an opinion on it, okay? We're not gonna make everybody happy with whatever decision we come up with. But I feel pretty confident that we will be able to get people to understand what decision we come up with. And the feedback that I've gotten overwhelmingly is like, hey, look, I may not agree with it, but I can understand it, and I respect at least you making that effort. And I think this will enable us to make that effort as well, and ensure that we are building back any kind of trust we may have lost so far in this process, or enhancing what we already have. That's critically important to having a healthy community, having a healthy operating city government. And I think that's a cornerstone of what we're trying to do here as well. So absolutely.
That's gives us power to move forward.
Yeah. And I'll leave you with this as well. I just want to acknowledge a couple of people. Bill, thank you for your work on this. It was outstanding. So pretty critical to getting us here. I'm looking forward to working with you throughout this project. Janice, for taking all the questions, taking all the bids, all that kind of stuff. I know you've been getting a lot of questions since getting this. Thank you for your work in that. Austin, you were really helpful on the legal side of this. Maggie, your solicitor, was as well. The other 5 of you that are here with me, we all kind of have different opinions on this, but You've all been very helpful in this process, and it's been one of the more enjoyable experiences working with all of you, and I'm grateful for all of that. Any other comments or questions before we? Mrs. Franklin on item 7, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. All right, we will move up to item 5. Kevin's been patiently waiting. Thanks for hanging with us here.
Thank you all. We'll see you soon.
Hey, oh, sorry, Craig. Thank you very much. Looking forward to working with you. It's going to be a great project.
I agree. Bye-bye.
An ordinance transfer ordinance number 12 in first reading.
Is there a motion in a second? Second. Motion in a second. Mr. Mackey, thank you for your patience. I didn't think it would take that long, but it did, so thank you.
I was taught well when I was a kid.
Yes,
So
sir.
this is a ordinance I'm asking for additional funding to put into my contracted services. As some of you may know, we had a little bit of expenses that came up that were unexpected out of that budget. I do need this to continue moving forward with certain projects that I'd like to get done. There should be some extra benefit, especially monetary benefit, out of making this working ordinance. Does anyone have any specific questions or any questions at all?
It's not going to go to committee, so Mrs. Katz.
Kevin, what is this for? What is this expense for?
So contracted services was something that Tracy had kind of merged in with 2 of our other line items. This is for any time that we use lawyers, auditors, enforcement actions. We're using a lot of those lately. Now that April is over, a lot of my time is going to be dedicated towards that. So this is specifically towards that and getting things going again with our income tax. So,
You're using some of this is for an attorney that you use.
correct, yes.
You do have a breakdown of your hours and everything.
Yes, that's put in with every check requisition.
And, you know, because how much of this percentage do you think is for the attorney?
Well, again, most of the budget went towards 2 unexpected expenses. So I had planned on having some additional things set aside. I'm basically asking for my budget again because of this unexpected expense. So this would allow me to go through the process of researching how to go through certain things, the enforcement collection actions. The enforcement collection actions do come back to us whenever we win the court cases. Generally taking things to the civil complaint course when I'm going to lose them because we have plenty of authority, we have plenty of evidence. So we'll be getting a lot of the money that I'm using from this back in the form of fines and costs.
Just wanted to clarify.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Here you see none. Mrs. Franklin, motion for item 5, first reading.
Mr. Allison.
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz. Yes. Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Item 6, Mrs. Franklin.
Resolution real estate exoneration.
Is there a motion in a second?
Second.
Motion in a second, Mr. Mackey.
Yeah, so this is actually, I think this is the property that made it into one of the local articles recently that we were taking over. The redevelopment authorities have been working on this and getting it back to the spec and turning it into a livable property again. So this is just making sure we're not taxing ourselves.
It's also did not go to committee. Any comments or questions on it? Mr. Allison.
Was this, involved in fire?
I don't know if this one's specific.
About 6 years ago now.
Any other comments or questions? Here you see none. Mrs. Franklin, the motion for item 6.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Kevin.
I have one more thing, if you'll let me speak real quick.
What's up?
So I did make an article in conjunction with
community and economic development recently. One of those contacts came forward, and I just wanted to let some people know about this. They are a organization run by the state that helps people apply, help businesses apply for grants and all these other different programs that are out there, and they do it for free, and they're reimbursed from the state. So if you know a business that is interested in finding programs and applying for them, contact me.
Good, thank you. Moving to item 15, certificate of appropriateness, from Par 305 Campbell Street, replacing shingles with, black, I don't know how to pronounce that word, type of shingle, repairing, porch paint, on the building, et cetera. Is there a motion and a second?
Second?
Second, Skip, welcome, sir. Thanks for your patience as well.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, council. This is just basically standard maintenance on this property. It's a historic building, it's quite old, and replacing shingles. Some of it is slate roof that has to be, some of it can be saved, some of it has to be repaired and replaced. And then it's the woodwork around, and the eaves and the porch, and repainting the typical maintenance plans, and was reviewed by the Hart Board and brought forward the City Council for your approval.
Right, Ms. Fielder. Comments or questions beyond that? Here you see none, Mrs. Frank, on item 15, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Wheeler.
Yes.
Mr. Binder.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Skip.
Thank you.
Item 16, except for filing water and sanitary authority meeting minutes from April 24th, 2024. Is there a motion in the second? Second, motion in the second. Any comments, questions on the minutes? Here you see none. Mrs. Frank on the motion for item 16.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Ms. Wheeler.
Yes.
Mr. Binder.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Do you guys miss anything?
Right.
Awesome. Item 17, announcements. Our next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be Thursday, June 20th, 7 p.m. here at Trade Transit 2, third floor. Upcoming meetings, Tuesday, June 18th, 11:30 a.m. Public Safety, 1 p.m. Finance, 2:30 p.m. Public Works Committees. 6:30 p.m. is the Hard Board. Wednesday, June 19th, 9 a.m. Economic Revitalization. Thursday, June 20th, 10:30 a.m. Zoning Hearing Board, at 7 p.m. is our next city council meeting. Are there any comments from members of city council? Mrs. Katz.
At the Public Works meeting on this past Tuesday, we had, Sean Walker from the Rec Department, talk about what's going on with some of the program. And just to remind everybody, we're having our grand opening of the pool and splash pad this weekend. So come out and enjoy.
Yeah, comments from members of council. Any comments from members of the administration? Any comments from members of the public? Comments from the news media? I don't see anybody here. All right, I'll take a motion in a second for adjournment. Second, all in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.